Our peace and stability depends on how United States government and UK treat us honestly. You are economically and militarily very powerful nations, and you are the ones who decide what goes in this world, honestly and frankly. We have been listening and watching as moderate Muslims who want us to live at peace with others and who wishes peace for United States people, Britain, Israel, and the rest of the world. We have been watching and listening to you. Your policies are hypocritical. What you are doing contradicts what you are saying, and I give you one example because of limitations. Let us take the foreign aid and human rights. You clearly state that you will use economic sanctions against the repressive regimes. And in the context of Ethiopia, I have listened to President Bush saying Ethiopia is our ally, number one ally in the war against terror. He gave them the green light to invade into Somalia. They went there, and according to the London-based human rights organization Amnesty, they have committed the worst crimes in history. Your image outside the world is shattered. You are seen as an enemy to the rest of the world. You need to restore that.
What I'm hearing from what you said is a lot of sense of the Somali people feeling like victims and feeling like everything is being done to them by people from the outside.
In reference to you mentioning the assistance that Britain can give, I find it quite strange that neither of you mentioned the amount of oil that's been found in Somalia and in Puntland, and the fact that British companies are also assisting in the development of the infrastructure there.
If Somalia is going to benefit from those resources, it will need international companies to help it, because it needs investment, it needs infrastructure, which Somalia simply doesn't have. There is a small team of experts on a range of issues, including medical and strategic communications, who are helping to train Amazon troops. That's a small team of less than 10 people. They're not combat troops, they're not involved in the front line, so there are no British combat troops in Somalia.
Cameron called Somalia a failed state, which directly threatens British interests, and I was saying if Britain's got 13.5 million people living in poverty, if last year we saw young people in this country who were tearing down the environment, who were saying we don't care about our environment, and the British government was saying that they're feral youth, you know, what are your indicators for a failed state? And in that case, how can Britain call Somalia a failed state? What are your interests? Yes, Cameron's talking about undermining British interests in Somalia. What are the British interests? And obviously neither of those questions were answered adequately. Definitely not. They did exactly what politicians do and just skate around the question.
I feel like I'm being taken for a mug, and so do other mothers in the school playground. The government say they have no money. There's a cap being put on benefits. Youth projects have no money to do projects. Places like Horn of Africa, which is doing brilliant work for young people, are being closed down. But yet the UK joined financial borders for Somalia. How do you plan on managing another nation's finances when obviously you're having trouble with your own?
I'm here representing the Foreign Commonwealth Office, and my subject and my sort of expertise is in foreign policy and not domestic policy. What I would say, of course, is that we are in the midst of one of the worst economic crises since the Great Depression, and clearly, all of us are suffering, both in Britain and across the rest of the world. What I would say about Somalia's economy is that it's really very different. There was a recent report by the UN that said maybe 75 or 78% of the government's total revenues were squandered and wasted in corruption. That is clearly completely unacceptable. And if Somalia wants the assistance of the international community in terms of international donors providing money to the government, or the international financial institutions such as the World Bank giving the government of Somalia money to regenerate its economy, it absolutely has to prove that it can use those resources transparently and accountably. And presumably the people of Somalia don't want to think that their hard-earned money is simply being taken by corrupt individuals and used to buy expensive cars and houses in Dubai. So I think the people of Somalia are the primary beneficiaries to some kind of accountable mechanism for managing.
There's so much problems going on here, but you're putting funding into other places.
But I think what Tom was saying, he's here to talk about foreign policy, and that's more of a domestic policy question. I think we'll just move on quickly.
When you want to do peace, that's fine, spend a little budget. But how can you spend billions and billions and billions and billions of pounds on something you know is not working? It's taken you 22 years, from what I know, to get to Somalia. It hasn't worked. You've done Iraq, Afghanistan started while I was in school, before I even had my first child. My first child is 9 years old. I haven't seen no changes, no difference in that country. What makes you think you can make a difference in Somalia? Well, we, as the people of Somalia, have not been able to. And I support and fund my family in Somalia.
Look, there's an economic cost to instability in Somalia. The shipping industry, which brings in our food and our clothes and all the things that we jacket we import from China and other places. The shipping industry has to pay much higher insurance premiums because there's piracy in the Gulf of Aden and the Indian Ocean.
But you know why there's piracy, you know it.
But what I'm saying is there is an economic cost to instability in Somalia.
You can stop the piracy by stopping foreigners going to do their fishing there, by stopping foreigners that are dumping their waste there. You know there's a solution to everything in this world, but we choose not to do the solution. We choose to ignore it and close our eyes.
Why are those young people going into piracy? It's because they have no jobs, no education, no hope, no future. So we need to help them have a future so they don't go into.
What about looking at the other way? Maybe they're angry.
Maybe they are, but then, you know.
We talk about another fact. You will never meet me again. That's the problem. You will never bump roads again. I will not see you walking down Shepherd's Bush Road. You won't see me walking down Shepherd's, and I won't see you. We live two different worlds. That's what you have to understand.